folks. Are you passionate about democracy and concerned about the rise of authoritarianism? I'm Joanne, Kevin's wife, and I've seen him give everything to this work. That's why Coffee with Democrats matters, lifting up stories, building connections, and keeping democracy strong. So tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. for 30 minutes of conversation with elected officials, candidates, and Democratic influencers, only on Coffee with Democrats. So join me in welcoming the Executive Director and host of Coffee with Democrats, my husband, Kevin Dawson.
Well, good morning and welcome to Coffee with Democrats Special Edition. We're coming to you live from the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union out on 44th Street in Oklahoma City. We are doing the Soup Social fundraiser here today, and this is going to be an exciting time. We're going to be doing this from 11 to 1 o'clock today. This is going to be a special event for all of us. And I've got this set up in a kind of a little studio situation where we're going to start doing some interviews this morning. And I've got a good friend of mine right in front of me. We've been friends for, what do you guess, 4 years, 5 years, something like that. And Cherie McNall, she used to be the chair of McLean County, and we've got lots of good stories. And I'm going to turn this over to Cherie. I say that wrong all the time, but it's okay. You're very forgiving and very loving about that. But anyhow, I'm going to turn this over to you so you can talk about some of the things that are going on in McLean County. So welcome to Coffee with Democrats and welcome here this morning on this special edition.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I am delighted to be here. It's wonderful to support the various groups within the Democratic Party. And when Barbara Cox said, "Can you make a soup?" I said, "Of course." So here I am and supporting the Disability Confederation. McLean County is busy this year. We have two wonderful candidates running for the seat against Tom Cole. And, you know, with everything going on, him supporting the Cheeto guy, I think it's time that we have a good election and replace the elderly Tom Cole. We have Mitch Jacob, who ran in HD20 last year. And we have Jeff Pixley, a brand new retired military officer who is also running. So we're going to have a wonderful group of people that will get up and make the campaign worthwhile. Also in our McLean County, we have a candidate, Chris Mays, running for HD20. And how can we get happier than that to have really good candidates that are running?
He's a former Marine.
They are.
Strong.
All three of them are formerly military, yes. You know, so they have that idea of living up to their constitutional beliefs and oaths. Yeah. So I'm delighted.
Yes, absolutely. And it's good to see you again. I mean, we've been, oh man, the stories that we can tell about all the places we've been. And you've been a lot more active here lately with some of your, we won't call them protests, but your activism, letting people know that, you know, what's going on is not okay. Yeah. And I appreciate seeing, you know, the signs that you guys are putting up on a regular basis. So it's great to see that kind of activism and support, as well as what you do behind the scenes. You're just an, you know, awesome individual. The new chair you were talking about, helping support the new chair that's over there, Randy, and making sure that they're all set up and ready to go. But, you know, what do you think about this environment here that we have set up for the Democrats here at this Union Hall for us to be able to have such a beautiful, isn't this wonderful? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, you know, this is one of those great opportunities for us as Democrats to be able to utilize this facility and get our word out there and have a soup social to raise funds, raise money for the Democratic cause, particularly for the Disability Caucus, and make sure that everybody is ready to go for this next election cycle. Because remember, when we're not campaigning for a candidate, we've got to be campaigning for the Democratic Party, right?
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Well, all right. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming. It's great to see you. Be safe going home with the rain. it looks like it's kind of tapering off and should be this way for a little while. So as I'm a Sooner, I enjoy watching the Sooners. I'm hoping that they have a good game today.
Kevin, keep up the good work.
All right. Thank you,
Okay,
Shirley. All right.
thanks.
Take care. All right. We'll be kind of taking breaks on and off and seeing things as they go on. We're just getting started. I mean, we just opened up at 11 o'clock and we're going to go live and continue to go live until 1 o'clock. And then we're going to shut everything down. At noon today, we should be having Julia Kirt, who is the minority leader for the Democratic Caucus. She'll be here. All right, folks, we're getting ready for our next interview, and just thought I'd, again, thank you for hanging out with us this morning on Coffee with Democrats. I know this is a long ordeal, and there's a lot of stuff going on, that takes you away from being able to watch this on Coffee with Democrats, but this is such an important cause. I want to be able to have this information out there so that we can get more people involved. So I'm bringing up our next guest is going to be Barbara Cox. She's the president, and she's the person who helped get this started. And she's also going to give us the address so that we can encourage more people to come out and participate this morning. Come out for lunch and have a soup or stew type of lunch with us. And the admission is really cheap. I think it's $10 a person. That's all we're asking. We're really looking forward to having more people come out and participate and be with us. So bear with us as we get our next guest lined up. We'll be right back. Hey, Barbara.
Hey.
Good. We are already on the air. So thanks for coming and being with us today.
Okay.
And you are the president of the Oklahoma Disability Federation.
Okay, it's the Oklahoma Democratic Disability Federation,
Okay.
ODDF.
Okay.
We can be found on Facebook at OKDEMS Disability, at OKDEMS Disability on Facebook.
Right.
We don't have a website. Our event is posted at the top of that.
Right.
You can pre-purchase your tickets, or you can purchase tickets here at the door. $10 is soup,
Okay.
a drink, bread. We have lots of cornbread and croissants and French bread and dessert.
Okay.
And hot apple cider and coffee and tea.
Excellent. And this is such a great facility. You've done such an awesome job with preparing everything that you did to get this going. I can't thank you enough because, again, this is a beautiful environment for Democrats to come together and help support one another, and particularly support our disabled people that are out here. So talk to us a little bit about your vision with the Disability Caucus this year.
Okay, this is a great facility. We're very blessed to be here, and we plan on coming back. We are going to have 2 fundraisers or events. Now, it's not just about fundraising. It's about bringing people together, and it is about promoting our candidates, which is why we're trying this digital environment, and we hope to continue to do that. So we'll do 2 a year, one in October for National Disability Employment Awareness Month.
Right.
This is the 80th year that the Labor Department has had that. So it's very important. Most people work.
Right.
Very few people are disabled and don't work. So you probably know someone that's disabled and you don't realize it because a lot of disabilities are hidden or non-apparent. And you wouldn't know it unless they tell you. But our vision is that we are going to promote our candidates.
Right.
We're going to advocate for the disability community. But our goal and our mission is to engage and activate the disability community because they're a significant voting bloc and a very important voting bloc that are being greatly affected by what's going on right now. So we look forward to all the things that we're going to be able to do. I have a great crew of people. I have 9 officers.
Awesome.
We elected all of those at the at state convention. We're in the process of rewriting our bylaws, and we're going to ratify those. We're in a membership drive. Membership is $10. There will be a link on our website after this event. I didn't want people to get confused.
Right.
But to vote on that bylaw, you need to be a member, and so it's only $10 annually. What else do you want to know?
Well, again, give us our address, where we're located, and encourage people to show up.
Okay, we are at the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters. You're going to have to look it up.
Yeah, it's on 44th Street.
It's on 44th. I believe it's 4330. Well, okay, wait.
Yeah, 4335 Southwest 44th Street.
Say it again.
4335 Southwest 44th Street in Oklahoma City.
Yes. Oh, and this is an excellent facility. I did want to point that out. We're very ADA compliant as far as the spacing on our tables. So this is a very comfortable environment for people who have ambulatory issues.
Sure.
They gave us cones to do extra handicap parking. They have good curb cutouts. It's great. And then we're learning the technology. They have 2 TV screens to where we can do, what's it called? Closed captioning.
Okay.
Closed captioning during the speeches and stuff. So
Awesome.
anyway, thank you, Kevin. You're just awesome, and I'm glad you're here doing this for us.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. All right, folks, we just heard from Barbara. She has been doing such an awesome job this morning. So we're going to be looking for our next guest to be able to interview. So bear with us as we get our next guest lined up, and we will be back here in just a few minutes. So thank you very much for being on here this morning, and we will have our next guest just as soon as we can grab them and bring them over.
And that's what I read and why I was glad I could be here. In fact, scheduled to be at break, which was
Sure.
we were doing different
Ended up
stuff
canceling
too.
that.
But
So I'm back here with Loretta Autry. She's a volunteer with the Oklahoma Democratic Party. She's a member. She's also a delegate, and she's also a national delegate. She went with me to Chicago to the national convention. A great friend of mine, and I'm looking forward to this opportunity to be able to spend time with you. Man, it's so good to see you again, Loretta. We can't spend enough time with each other, can we?
absolutely, yes. And good to see you again too. Chicago was such an amazing experience, and we came away from that even more committed to do what we can to bring change. We didn't get the outcome we wanted in that election, but I think 2026 is going to be different if we all get out and work.
Right.
We've got fabulous candidates across the state of Oklahoma, and I know nationally too, but I can barely keep up with my own area, let alone that. But contesting in every congressional district in the state,
Right.
Great candidates up and down the ballot, from governor. Got somebody great now for superintendent of schools, and we had really been worried about what was going on there. We've got a great candidate there now. Went to his formal announcement just this past week.
Good.
Really liked what I heard him saying. A guy who understands what public education is all about, who has been there in the trenches with it in rural communities, knows what he's doing and knows how to get things done. So we've got some good things going there. Good candidates in all of our CDs. I'm in Congressional District 4, so of course I'm partial to what's going on there and been very committed to working. And we have two fabulous candidates there,
we do,
which is just astounding. But it's great.
Yeah, it is great, and the great thing about it is, it's steel sharpening steel. They're they're going to help each other. They're going to grow, and at the end of the day, they will be ready to challenge Tom Cole, which we need to have somebody challenge him, because we've got to be honest with you. We really need to figure out a way to unseat Tom Cole. And I think the two candidates we have, both of them have that opportunity. And once we unseat him, it will take care of that stranglehold that he has had, where he is not doing anything for Oklahoma. He's not doing anything for his constituents. We've got to have somebody who actually fights for Oklahoma and fights for the constituents of Oklahoma. The poor are getting poorer in this state. Our health care is in decline. We're at last place when it comes to school. We're at the bottom when it comes to outcomes for families and people. in women's health care, we're ranked as one of the bottom. We're also, I think, the number one when it comes to trying to incarcerate women in the state of Oklahoma. I think maybe Louisiana is ahead of us on that now, but it's unbelievable. All the bad things that are happening. And guess what? We've got a Republican-controlled legislature. We break that, we can start having good things happen in the state of Oklahoma again.
And I think we're going to. And we have to remember, too, Tom Cole has never once stood up to anything Trump has proposed and mandated.
Right.
Many of those actions being illegal and unconstitutional, which
Right.
we know. Tom Cole has been there a long time. He's powerful. He has no reason to not get the courage to stand up and say, Mr. President, you're wrong.
Right. I
Not
agree.
once has he done that.
Right, right. Well, it's great to see you again, and thanks for coming up here and having this little interview with us on Coffee with Democrats. You're such a wonderful person.
We appreciate what you're doing.
I can't spend enough time with you. So,
Well, I hope we get to go to another convention
Yes.
with you and Joanne. We'd love it.
all right. Thanks so much, Loretta.
Good to be with you.
All right, we're going to be back here in just a few minutes when I go get the next guest to come up, and we're looking forward to the next interview. Trying to get my setup going here. So I've got
I
both
mean, there's
cameras.
just always something to learn, right?
Yes, there is.
Always something to learn.
We're going to pass this back and forth with each other, but all right, we've got Lori Walke. Now it's Dr. Walke.
I have my doctor of ministry. Yes, I have my doctor of ministry, but please just call me Lori.
Lori. All right, we're here together. We're going to talk a little bit. So I ambushed you. You had no previous knowledge that you were going to go live this morning. So I'm going to let you pick the topic and let you talk about that, and also talk about the Disability Federation, what it means to you, and how people can support.
Yeah, happy to do that. So part of my story is that 6 years ago, I experienced sudden idiopathic hearing loss. I went completely deaf in my right ear. And that was, a pretty significant happening in a person's life. Sometimes people think, well, it's just one ear, right? You've got the other one. But it's a real shift in how a person experiences the world. And one of the things that I think a lot of people think about disability as something that shrinks your world. But I think that is a real misconception. Really, my experience has been that it has expanded it in some really important and meaningful ways, not the least of which is my exploration into figuring out multiple ways to communicate. I pursued an associate's degree in American Sign Language from OSU OKC, which has one of the best interpreter programs in the state.
Right.
And that actually, I had no idea what I was going to learn. One of the most important things that I learned was it introduced me and connected me to the deaf community,
Right.
deaf culture, and just the really incredible people who have been working for equity for forever.
Right.
And I was really grateful to learn more about that and be more mindful in my own practice and ways of living to expand access and quit creating handicaps, because disabilities, disability is not a disease. It's not that people are broken. It's actually not a handicap. We create handicaps.
Right.
Society does that. And so the more we can recognize that, the better off we'll all be.
Right.
Accessibility is not just about folks with disabilities. It's about all of us being more deeply connected to one another.
Absolutely. This is a time of division in our state, and we need to come together and be more mindful of one another. And as a doctor of theology, I may have misstated.
You're good. That's
that.
good.
But anyhow, as a doctor of theology and practicing pastor, it really matters that we all come together. The Oklahoma Standard is not a division between party. It is a coming together of all people. So I wanted you to be able to talk a little bit about that. Maybe include some of your personal observations.
Sure. This is known as Oklahoma is known as a deeply religious, very spiritual state. And sometimes that is understood as more divisive than unifying. We have, 33 different flavors of Baptists.
Yes.
We have all kinds of different flavors of Christians, and we have quite a few different faiths in this state. And whether or not you're a person who belongs to a religious community or not, all of us have values. And I always say that we have more in common than we have than the differences between us. And if we can start talking less about partisanship and more about values, I think that is a way for us to realize that, man, we all want the same things. Sometimes our approaches confuse one another. And what I have been telling people lately is to try to lean into that confusion. When you are in front of somebody who is saying things that are really confusing, and I'm pulling out confusion in the midst of maybe it makes you angry and other things, but ultimately you're confused by their approach. Lean into that and say to that person, I'm confused, and I want to know more about where you're coming from and what brought you to that conclusion. I imagine that you are also confused by my position, since we seem to be on opposite ends of a spectrum, for instance. But would you be willing to lean into your confusion with me and hear my story so that you can hear where I'm coming from?
Right.
So that in a way, we're just focusing on the confusion and our shared experience of confusion. And in sharing our stories, it might be that we find ourselves closer rather than farther apart.
Hey, look, I ambushed you this morning. Didn't even give you time to sit down and have some soup. So let me give you an opportunity to go get some soup. And thanks so much for being on here with us on Coffee with Democrats.
Appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much. All right, folks, thanks for staying with us so long. We're going to go get another guest and have another guest come up here. And again, thank you, Lori, for everything you're doing. You're going to be the keynote. I think we're going to get started with that sometime around 12:30 or so. And I want everybody to be able to come back to this. We're going to show it live on Coffee with Democrats and share that prominently. So please continue to share this and invite more people. Again, we're at, I think it's 4335 West 44th Street. And if you know somebody who wants to come out and have some soup, it's only $10 for admission. And that money goes to a great cause for our Disability Caucus. So thanks so much. And we will be back live. So bear with us and hang on. Thank you.
You're doing good work.
Yes. So that we'll pass this back and forth, but you'll hold it mostly. Okay. So I've got a guest with me this morning, a good friend of mine. We went to Chicago together as well for the convention. We were inspired. We were pumped up. We were ready to go. I think the walls that we could have run through together were awesome. So I've got with me Carri Hicks. She's senator. So I'm going to turn this over. I promised her I was going to let her talk about whatever she wanted to talk about.
Well, I'm so glad to be spending time with you again this morning. I think it's a dangerous thing when you hand a politician and just say, talk about whatever you want to talk about. But most recently, I celebrated my campaign kickoff this Wednesday, and it's a little bittersweet. With term limits, this is it. So 2026 will be the third term that I'm eligible to serve, which by the end of that, if I'm lucky and successful, will have been 12 years in the state legislature, and it's gone by really in a blink of an eye. But it was kind of fun to reminisce on, where we started and where we are currently. I was a mother of two when we started our campaign, and we had a campaign baby along the way, and won our first election in 2018. And now to be running again in 2026, we're trying to think about, okay, what things have we improved, and what things have gotten worse. And unfortunately, the things that I care about most continue to get worse in the state of Oklahoma. And I think that just speaks to needing more quality candidates to challenge incumbents on the ballot. And so we're working hard to try and find candidates in every corner of the state, just to really make sure that there is a choice when folks go to the ballot box, that there's not a seat that just gets whatever showed up on filing day. So those are the things that I'm kind of thinking about today. And really, I've got my door knocking shirt on, so that's where I'll be headed after we wrap here this morning. But connecting with folks at the doorstep really always gets me inspired about the things that I can continue to do and the ways that I can continue to serve in the state Senate.
We're going to talk about one more thing.
Okay.
Tell us about the soup that you had. Don't tell us your favorite, but kind of give us an idea of the flavors that you had, and inspire other people to come and participate in that.
Oh my gosh. If you're not here, you're missing out. There's a whole lot of good old-fashioned home-cooked options. I have sampled 6 so far. There are 20 different flavors. I mean, everything from mole, homemade mole, to chicken and sausage gumbo, red beans and rice. There's hobo stew, which might be leading in my favorite just because it makes me so nostalgic. Just some ground beef and vegetables and kind of dump everything in a pot and let it simmer. But potato leek soup, minestrone, there are some excellent flavors here. And so if you are looking for a good home-cooked meal today, the weather is perfect to come out and share some time and taste all the flavors.
And you talk about a perfect location. We're at 4335 Southwest 44th Street. People can come on out here. We're at the Pipe Fitters and Plumbers Union out here, so they can come in and participate all they want.
And I want to say this space has been recently renovated. It's beautiful. They've put in new flooring. The whole front facade looks gorgeous. So the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, Local 388, out here on Southwest 44th Street. It's a great location. It's easy to get to. It's right off the highway. And again, I mean, you're going to be kicking yourself if you don't get out here and taste some of these amazing soups and stews. And it just warms your spirit and warms your soul, and will nourish you on the rest of the fight.
And it goes to a good cause, which is a disability caucus.
Yeah, so the Disability Caucus asked myself, and Leader Kirt just joined us to come and speak today. At about 12 o'clock, we'll be kicking things off with just kind of some legislative updates on potential legislation that we intend to file, other things that we've been successful at working on, and just trying to inspire folks to stay engaged. We know that this is a very timely topic as we're looking at what's happening at the federal government, and what we're concerned about more locally is what are those special education protections that we have in place for our schools.
Right.
And in Oklahoma, we have none.
Right.
They are all of our state statutes specifically refer to federal IDEA. And that won't go away because it would take an act of Congress for that to go away. But if there's no enforcement mechanism, because the federal Department of Education has laid off all of those folks that are there to enforce and hold accountable, then I think our concerns are very valid in worrying about whether or not we would have the proper support and pathways for parents and students to get what they deserve and are federally entitled to here in our local schools if we don't also put something in place at the state level to make sure that those kids have every opportunity to thrive and succeed in our public schools.
We don't have rah-rah no more.
The irony about the change, I guess you will, in a state superintendent is that we're still 50th in education. And now that we have restored sanity back to the State Department of Education, we still have so much work to do. And so I'm grateful that he has resigned and taken on his new endeavor. I disagree wholly with his mission to destroy teachers' unions, obviously. But I mean, at least it has provided Oklahoma a pathway towards stable leadership. I met with the new superintendent, Lyndall Fields, last week, and he just has a very different overall demeanor, approach, style. And we finally have access and communication with the State Department of Education again, which is so important as a lawmaker to be able to have communication with the agency to see how things are going and what needs improvement. So while we are still 50th, I believe that we will have an opportunity in the next 14 months of his leadership to really start to, pull back the curtain and focus on kids again and get all of the politics out of the way so that we can really focus on people.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming with us today. Again, this was a special Coffee with Democrats presentation. We're going to continue to stay live until we are done about 1 o'clock. So bear with us and stay with us as we go and get more people that we're going to interview and talk along the way. Thank you so much, and it's great to see you again.
You're always improving your systems, aren't you?
I'm trying. I'm trying.
I've been trying to get everybody in the Dem party to get a mic, clip on mic. They're so cheap. I'm like,
Yeah.
just get one.
And this is the one that I use, is the DJI. They've got a smaller one now. Since I bought this, they've got a smaller one. But hey, folks, I'm here with Senate Minority Leader. Man, my tongue was so slow on that reaction right there. Senate Minority Leader Julia Kirt, a good friend of mine, somebody we've hung around a little bit, and it's such an honor to be with you again. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you, let you talk about the Disability Caucus, the social that we have going on, but also open the floor to you to be able to talk about whatever's most important to you.
Excellent. So just hold both of them?
Yeah.
All right. So glad to be here. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you for continuing to create these important conversations. I'm excited that the Disability Federation is getting going again. I think incredibly important part of making sure the Democratic Party is representing disabled voices well. We have always been a big tent party. And so to me, it's in a more important time than ever for us to overtly and clearly say that we support people with disabilities. They should be part of all of our communities and all of our democracy efforts, but also they should get their own voice too. And so I'm really pleased for this restarting. I am at the Capitol, have spent a lot of time advocating for people with disabilities. And, the biggest thing the first few years I was there was working on the waiting list for the developmental disability services. And so this is, I think it's an incredibly important time for people who understand and care about people with disabilities or have one themselves, because there's a misunderstanding about history. And when we change from institutionalizing people because they were dangerous and inhumane, and move people back to their community, we never have funded those services enough. Mental health, developmental disabilities, they're not funded enough. And so we want people to be able to stay with their families. We want people to have agency and choice in their lives. And I'm hearing people use language again about institutionalizing folks. So that's my big worry. But we have invested money in supporting people and their families, and I want us to keep that up. Mental health is the big pivot point right now because we're seeing a lot of cuts at the state level for mental health services. It's dangerous. We're going to end up with people incarcerated and in hospitals when they could be treated in their community. And that's, to me, that's an ADA issue. The Department of Justice under Biden studied Oklahoma City and said that the problem for people with disabilities with mental health conditions in Oklahoma City is the funding for the state agency for mental health. And our Republican colleagues dismissed it and said it was a Biden thing. But what we know is half of the people sitting in Oklahoma County Jail have a mental health diagnosis. That's unacceptable.
Same with our homeless.
Yeah, totally. So if we don't deal with it, people are going to end up incarcerated in ERs. And just to backtrack a little bit, I know inclusion is so much more than that. This is the most extreme end of it, but I think it's that mindset in general. Are we going to focus on accommodations that help people with disabilities in the workplace? And I'll tell you that my brother has a genetic disorder, and so he's been wheelchair bound since college started. And so I grew up always knowing I was able-bodied and understanding the challenges that people face in our society if we're not mindfully making things accessible. So that, from the very beginning, my heart's been in that place. And I would say at the state level, we have a ton of work to do. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for
Sure.
spending just a few minutes with us. I know you're going to get started here with your speech and address the rest of the audience here later. But thanks for stopping by, and we wish you all the best in your next this next session. You've got multiple sessions as leader coming up, so you're going to ask yourself, what did I get myself into? But you've been asking that for a long time. I'd say that in jest. So, hey, folks, bear with us as we move on to the next guest that we have coming up. I'm going to reach out to candidate Pixley and see if he is available, and we're going to bring him up next. So thanks again for showing.
Sorry,
No, not at all. Not at all. So I'm going to make a little announcement. You know, this is not a Baptist church. We don't start filling at the back. We start filling at the front today. So I'm encouraging everybody to move from the back to the front. So thanks everybody for coming to to the first Oklahoma Democratic Party Disability Federation social fundraiser. Wow, that's a mouthful. And for my little pea brain, that's a lot to remember. So again, I want to thank everybody for being here and all the people who brought soup. Thank you so much. I'm going to start an interview now with the only candidate that's here right now, and that's Jeff Pixley. I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about your campaign. Let you talk about it and what people should be watching out for as we move forward to the primary and to the general election. So I'm going to let you talk.
Thanks, Kevin. First of all, I just wanted to echo the sentiments about that began this, the folks that put this on. This is just a great setup. It's the first one I've been to, and seeing the support of folks coming from and across the community to contribute to this worthy cause and this fundraiser is just been phenomenal. As usual, pretty much every CC Dems event I've been to has been great. So as you said, I'm Jeff Pixley. I'm one of the declared Democratic candidates for Oklahoma Congressional District 4, the seat currently occupied by Tom Cole. I retired from the Air Force on September 1st, and that was the first day of my campaign. I retired after 35 years in the Air Force for the express purpose of pursuing this seat. So my campaign's 55 days old today, which it's been an amazing almost 2 months now with a lot of learning on my part. I wasn't in politics before. In fact, although I was always a registered Democrat and I voted consistently, I was never active in politics because it was improper for military folks to do that. It's not what we do. So I maybe started with a slight disadvantage of having zero name recognition, no money, and no experience, which normally that would scare away probably any rational person from politics. But it has been, the learning curve has been, I think, pretty steep. And I've been surrounded by folks who are been incredibly encouraging to me. So there's been a great outpouring of support from folks who see this as an important cause. Getting a Democrat elected to represent the people of CD4 is that hunger is there. It's obvious with everybody I talk to, and now it's just about building some momentum, some grassroots momentum to build name recognition, to get folks out there on the social media to like, share, and subscribe. I had zero social media presence 55 days ago because that wasn't my thing, and it wouldn't have been proper anyway. So we're building slowly. Events like this are an opportunity for me, so I appreciate the opportunity to say something. But the truth is, this campaign, the primary is about 240 days away. The next 240 days are about making sure that the people of CD4 have a strong, legitimate, credible candidate to go against an entrenched politician who's been there since about the time I graduated college way back when. I'm looking forward to the experience. Mitchell Jacob is the other declared candidate. He's a good man, and we're gonna compete with one another, but we're not here to tear each other down. What I tell folks about the primary is that I'm not enemies with anybody in the Democratic Party. I think of Mitchell and I as two quarterbacks trying out for the starting position on the team. So I'm going to learn from him. I hope, and I hope the experience makes me a stronger candidate of trying to up my game to maintain some momentum. So it's been phenomenal. And if anybody that wants to be part of the campaign, wants to help out, PixleyForCongress.com is my website. If you just Google Jeff Pixley, I'm very Googleable because of my prior military experience. So just Google my first and last name and you're going to find everything you need to know about me. And I'd love to hear from folks on the campaign trail.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us today. And I appreciate all of the people being here today. We're going to take just a minute, kind of rearrange the setting here so that we can get ready for our first guest speaker. And then we'll, again, if you have a cell phone, please get your cell phone out and encourage all of your friends that are at home to come out here and have soup with us. We're only going to be here for about another hour, and then we're going to go. But again, folks, this is an outstanding turnout for our very first soup social fundraiser. This is our first, but it is not our last. So again, great, outstanding work by everybody. So bear with us as we get ready. All right, we've got a couple more minutes before we're going to get started here at 12:15 with our first set of speakers. That's going to be Senate Minority Leader Kirt and Carri Hicks are going to speak here just shortly. So she's ready, so we're going to go ahead and pull her right on up. So big round for Carri Hicks.
Good afternoon. We're actually going to tag team a little bit because we're the Senate Cis duo. Just briefly, I want to say how thrilled I am that Barbara and others of you are restarting the Disability Federation. It's much needed, and I was telling Kevin, I mean, to me, Democratic Party needs to be as overt and clear as possible that we support people with disabilities being completely part of our society and our democracy. And I think we're seeing some troubling moves towards segregating people with disabilities, towards returning to a mindset of out of sight, out of mind when it comes to disability. And I'm deeply concerned, especially in this state, about mental health and the way that people with a mental health diagnosis are being treated. What we know is that we haven't invested enough as a state for decades. And we certainly haven't invested enough for people to be in their communities and have agency in their communities with the kinds of services they need. And so people are getting incarcerated or involuntarily committed when we could instead be providing community-based treatment. And I think we have to remind people again and again, for those of you who remember, sorry to be a bummer at this time of the day, but those of you who remember institutions and when we used to keep people in institutions involuntarily. And when I toured Griffin lately, they used to have no limit on the number of people who would be involuntarily committed to Griffin. It would have 2,000 plus patients there. Can you imagine how awful that was for those patients, for that staff, how inhumane? We know the record of those kinds of institutions, and it's very recent. Because in Oklahoma, we have the Greer Center outside of Enid that had atrocious abuse cases just in the last couple of years for people with developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and mental health conditions, treated horribly, and no convictions right now, no indictments even. So I just want to point that out because I think this is the base level of where we need to start with advocacy. Everything from we've got to remember the dignity of every individual, from folks who have severe and profound disabilities to things that they're able to stay employed and nobody knows, right? And I think what we see in terms of this mindset around sweeping people from homeless camps, putting people in institutions, to me is just, I know, it's wrong. Thank you for that word. I was going to get too philosophical there, but I'll just say we see this at the Capitol all the time, and we have to help our state have a vision and the imagination for the potential of everyone in our state. And so I work a lot with Representative Ellen Hefner on workforce for people with disabilities. There's programs available, but I will say the vision's very low for the potential of people with disabilities in our state. And
Tell them that
employment levels are awful in our state. It's something like 65% unemployed for people with a disability. I'm talking about any kind of disability. This is not about folks who have, needs that need a lot of support. This is for folks of all types of disabilities. That's unacceptable. That means we're not doing our job, our workplaces are not doing their job, and we're not giving people the support they need, because people want to work. They want to be in community. And I just had a talk last week with a woman who's been a longtime advocate for people with disabilities, and she just said, this idea that people don't want to work is wrong. They want to work somewhere that's going to work with them, that's going to be possible. And so I think everything you do to advocate in our democracy in this state is going to matter. And I'm just so grateful that y'all are stepping up on this.
Yeah. Leader Kirt works tirelessly day in and day out, really in thinking through transitions, because I think that's one of the major gaping holes that we have in our current system. And so obviously I come from a background of public education and kind of that K-12 mindset. And so Leader Kirt is always pushing me to really think about, okay, so if kids are receiving that support and that assistance, what is the next step? And how do we build a bridge for families? And how do we build a bridge for individuals to make sure that everyone can live into their fullest potential? And I'm so grateful that we have someone with her vision and her wisdom and just her heart and compassion in the state Senate. And so to go back to education, because obviously we have a new state superintendent, which I should deserve a round of applause. Thrilled that sanity has once again been restored back to the State Department of Education. But what the reality that we're facing currently is that we're still 50th. We are not investing in the future of our workforce and investing in every student's potential. And the big concerns that I have, really what's keeping me up at night these days is, the major announcement during this federal government shutdown that they have fired the entire workforce, 400 employees at the special education federal Department of Education. And I can't let that go. And so when I think about the perspective that I hold, not only as a classroom teacher in being able to successfully implement IEPs and accommodations and 504 medical accommodation plans, making sure that every student is getting what they need in that classroom setting, I'm also thinking of this from a parent's perspective, because I have 3 kids, one of who is on a 504 medical accommodation, one who's on a speech IEP plan, and the other one, something's coming, I'm sure. But when I'm thinking through what opportunities as a parent I have to be involved in making sure that those accommodations are going well, I feel very represented in that conversation in my local public school. And unfortunately, what I'm finding is that's very unusual, that the vast majority of folks really, there's a healthy tension there, that really making sure teachers and school districts and administrators understand what those appropriate accommodations look like for students to live into that full potential, and parents understanding how hard they can push and what resources are available without having to take folks to court. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants arbitration to be the center of demanding what their kids are entitled to. And so if those firings stand, which that will be litigated, if that happens, the scary thing for Oklahoma is that we have nothing currently in state law that codifies those protections at the state level. Everything that we currently have for special education is referring to IDEA, okay? So if there's no one at the federal level to enforce that or hold school districts accountable, the concerns that we have are we need to be putting stronger guardrails in place at the state level so that if we turn things into this state block grant funding that's going to trickle down from the federal government and everything gets returned back to the states, we're prepared. And we're not in a crisis at that point, worried about what could happen to our most vulnerable. And so the really inspiring thing about this conversation is that this is a nonpartisan conversation. I was in a conversation yesterday with our chairman of education, Adam Pugh, who has put out a pretty bold public statement and press release on this issue and working on this. And so we're joining forces. We're going to be probably working a lot behind the scenes to ensure that not only is it just what is federally protected, dreaming about what is possible. So what other mechanisms? Is mediation a better opportunity for parents and school districts to be able to really come together, sit down and work things out to meet the needs of those students in that environment? I think so. And so those are the things that we will continue to be pushing on, because I never thought that inclusion would make me a progressive. I never thought that it would be radical to include folks with all levels of ability. But here we are. And that's our reality at the state capitol, is really understanding that somehow inclusion is a trigger for folks across the aisle, and really pushing back on what folks think that means. Because I can tell you, my son who needs insulin daily to live, that makes him function at a base level like the rest of us. Our pancreas does that for us. So it's not like he's getting something extra. He's getting what he needs in order to be able to function in society. And so we've got to continue to push back on this mindset that somehow everyone needs the same, because I'm telling you, if I took insulin, it would be fatal. So being willing to share our own personal stories, I think is really powerful in getting our folks across the aisle to think about what disabilities are, what they aren't, what inclusion looks like, what it's not, so that we can continue to make the best strides we can for as long as we're there.
Yeah, actually, good job. Thank you. I love, so Senator Hicks's first response when those Trump firings came through was, how do we put these protections in state law? And I was like, you're right. So that's great. Just briefly, because I know he'll be upset if I don't introduce him, my son, Roger Guilford, is here today. And Roger is a brand new voter. He just turned 18 this year. And he's very proudly has autism and ADHD. See it? Yeah. And this dude knows what inclusion is like because of his school. Roger, isn't your school great about how he has relationships with everybody in that building and has what? No, let's not. Although if anybody wants a really bad dad joke, talk to Roger because he'll have lots. But he has, Roger is mainstreamed in the school, but he has an IEP for extra supports to make sure he gets opportunities. And he's been getting opportunities through the federal rehabilitation program because of potential barriers to work, which, he's going to need some extra supports to become a consistent worker. And so he's right now getting to work at the school, being paid by the federal government, to try in a soft, gentle environment what it means to consistently work when no one's watching you in that very moment. And to make sure you stay on track even when you don't want to do something, because those are the kinds of things that he's going to struggle with. If he's tired, he's going to go sit down. And so we're going to work on those things in a safe environment where everybody knows and loves him and shows him how much they love him every day. I'm so grateful for educators. But those opportunities are because of programs for kids with disabilities and came out of advocates of the past. Because 30, 40 years ago, we were barely getting started with education for people with disabilities. I mean, I was talking to a woman the other day who her sister was not allowed to go to school in the 50s. She couldn't go. So we have revolutionized the opportunities and we are not going to go back. All right, Barbara, you want to? Barbara said we could take questions if anyone has specific things you want to talk about, right?
Yes, I have a first question.
All right.
I would like to know how we can best advocate for ourselves. Sorry about that. No. What I would like to know is how we can best support our senators and representatives at the state capitol as you are supporting us.
I mean, I think your consistent advocacy matters. If you see something you want us to know, please let us know. Don't assume we know it because we're covering a lot of bases. In the Senate, there's 8 Democrats. In the House, there's 20. And so we're covering a lot of territory. So don't ever assume that we know that a bill is bad or that an issue is happening. We are glad to hear from you. If we don't represent you, please be in touch with your Republican rep or senator. Even if you don't have a good rapport with them, you being consistent can help because we may ask the question, but your outreach as a constituent matters to them. So I would say that first. And then I think the other big thing is joining with allies. So there's several good groups around that are advocating around issues, and we can help you connect with them. But I think don't do it alone is my other big thing.
Well, and I was just going to say, I mean, today you're doing it. You're showing what it takes to build relationship and to be in the conversation. Because, I mean, I always say, you know, teachers make excellent politicians or excellent senators in my experience, because it's the same skill set, right? So it's like, as an advocate, I wanted to know who my reps were. So I would, during interim, right? Like, we're not in the Capitol day in and day out. That's the perfect opportunity to say, hey, can we go to coffee somewhere in the district? Or is it easiest to meet you at your office? And, you know, I've got an issue I'd really like to connect with you on, you know, a 15-minute conversation. And then when we're in session and things are moving quickly, you already have that rapport built and you already have that relationship embedded, so that when that email comes or that phone call comes, it's like, oh yeah, you know, I know Victor, you know, I was on his doorstep for 45 minutes the first time I knocked his door, right? So, I mean, it's those relationships matter. And so doing this, coming together in community, I think really helps assuage the feelings of isolation and loneliness and depression and anger. And maybe I'm giving myself therapy talk right now. But I mean, truly being in community with folks, like Leader Kirt said, helps everyone feel like you're not being gaslit day in and day out. Like, this really is a problem and we need to work together to solve it, versus I'm on my own and no one's listening, and how do I get traction on an issue? Build that community. Not only with the people that represent you, but with the individuals who are working in those spaces, because we are stronger together, for sure. Are there other questions?
Yeah, if you have another question, raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone to you.
It's incredible having a built-in sound man who's also very capable in visuals.
Any questions?
Victor always has some questions.
Going once? Going twice? Oh, here we go. Hold on.
Just for online.
I'm just curious if the calls matter. You know, I get so frustrated and I can't articulate it when it's so mad. And so it's stopping from calling, but does it matter?
Yeah, your outreach does matter, and you do not have to have the perfect words at all. So a lot of times I'll get emails on issues and I can tell someone spent days writing like the perfect email. You do not have to do that. Really, just tell us, I don't want you to do this. I do want you to do that. That's all you have to do. And on the phone, that's really it too. When it's federal offices, you know, they have people gathering that information. Now, the amount of calls it takes to tip them from partisan talking points and stances it's more, it's higher bar. At the state level, if we get 5 calls or emails on something, we consider that a lot. Yeah.
Question right on the front row.
Go ahead and tell them about that non-perfect email or call thing. Tell them about William Hefner.
What about it? Right. So Roger's reminding me, so one of my dear constituents is also Ellen Hefner's son, William Hefner, and he's a great advocate, really builds relationships with people, and he stutters, but that's fine. It doesn't, like, if your rep or senator doesn't listen to you because you don't have the perfect words, that's on them. You know, that's their fault. That's not your fault. You are telling what you need to tell. They should connect the dots. You should not have to tell your legislator exactly what bill or what budget item, because you should be able to say, I'm upset about public transit, or I'm upset about Medicaid, and they can connect those dots. You should not have to thread that needle. Now, there's a lot of legislators who are not as responsive. And so I would say go with a friend or do it with a friend, because sometimes, I know for me, when I was upset about cuts at my kids' schools during the budget breakdown in 2017, we went to the Capitol and talked to some people who truly gaslit us and said, oh, that can't be happening. And we were like, we're in the school every day. We see what's happening. And we know that our kid doesn't have an assistant in his kindergarten or whatever it was. And they would try to say, no, they can't deny your experience. But they do sometimes.
Well, and I mean, and to that point, I mean, like, it's also about accountability, right? So like, if I, send an email and say, hey, please vote no on whatever bill because XYZ. And then the conversation ends there, right? Or like you get some boilerplate email back of like, thank you so much. And that's it, right? Follow up on that and say like, I noticed you voted for it. I'd really like to have a meeting in your office when you're available. I mean, that's the level of accountability that's meaningful to me, even when there's a disagreement. And so, I mean, neither one of us are in like a blue seat. Let me just be really honest in saying that, I mean, like my seat for sure is purple. And so meeting with people who disagree with me it's healthy. And I think there's a lot of fear right now about getting into those deeper conversations because folks are so far on the fringes or they're so entrenched in their jersey that they're not willing to hear. I can only speak, for my sis and I, in that we are constantly curious. Curiosity is at the foundation of why we pursued office, right? And how can we make things better? And so if you have curiosity at the foundation, then I feel like you're much more willing to engage in some of those conversations to learn something that might challenge a perception that you have for whatever reason, or be willing also to push back and say like, I understand we're not going to agree about this issue. And I understand that this is the issue that's most important to you. But here are the other things that I'm working on. And I really hope to have your voice in these conversations as well. Don't let that be the end of the conversation of just saying, please do this or please don't do this. Follow up on that kind of stuff because it should be a reciprocal, mutually beneficial relationship. A lot of our colleagues don't see it that way, but I can again only talk for us, but those things are helpful to really have a bigger understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, and I'll just add that election year is a great year for asking questions because right now they're worrying about whether someone's going to run against them. So if you're a constituent of someone who is unresponsive, it's a better time than ever to hassle them if they're not getting back to you because they should be on edge, that they're going to get challenged. And they don't want to be challenged publicly. So I'm not saying be mean or anything. I'm just saying like, you can say, I'm disappointed in this vote. I want to understand why you're voting this way. Or I'm going to be watching. I hope in the future you'll consider my perspective. All right. For sure. Yeah.
I got two questions really. My understanding of the government is that the SNAP is going to go away. Hold on, Mike. I'm running as fast as I can.
Is that endlessly?
My understanding is SNAP.
That's loud.
Be ended in the month or something. I'm not sure the date exactly. Is there anything in the state that they're doing to fill that gap? Legislators really not to work on, and is it going to be left up to the charities to take care of that and the nonprofits? And the other one is about the healthcare. There's supplements going out. Is there anything?
I'll talk to SNAP. You talk to health. Yeah. So on the SNAP issue, clearly the feds could pay for SNAP next month. They're choosing not to, and they're really trying to push it they're playing chicken with people's lives right now. And so at the state level, we could not cover multiple months. We could cover a month. It's $130 million in SNAP money per month that goes out the door. And so it's a lot of money. Oklahoma does have a rainy day fund. We actually, if you want to know the details, we can't get into the rainy day fund except for under certain circumstances. We do have cash balances of about 100 million. We would have to have a special session. What I've heard from my Republican colleagues is that they would be open to that if they knew the feds were going to pay us back. And so their big concern is that the feds have purposely not told us whether they're going to pay us back for things. That includes federally funded state employees. Right now, we're floating some of those folks. Like we have folks who work in our state government who do Social Security determinations and such. The feds have not told us if they're going to pay us back for paying those folks. And so the federal government is purposely not communicating. So right now, I don't see a fix happening at the state legislature. And frankly, I have not come out strong calling for a special session because I don't see my colleagues doing it, and I don't want to give people false hope. And so my thought is, you never know what can happen in a week, right? And I think they're really trying to bring it to a head. But I'm deeply concerned.
What was the second part of the question?
He asked about the health.
Okay, healthcare. I was with
like
you
the
on
premium,
SNAP, and I'm like, what was the other part of that
stuff,
question I was supposed to answer? what we've seen now, I think within the last 24 hours, we've started to see some of what the projected health insurance rates will be, and what the direct impact is if Congress doesn't act, which, I mean, the whole reason that we're in this federal government shutdown is that Democrats drew a hard line, in saying, if we don't extend the subsidies, that's the end of the conversation. Like, we're not willing to come to a conversation until this happens, right? And I mean, now that we're seeing those real numbers, that's powerful. Because I mean, just the ones that I saw in the Rachel Maddow clip that I saw, they're significant. We're talking $13,000 annually in specific states, 60 years old, dual income at, 80,000 combined household. Where are you going to find 13,000 extra dollars for health insurance that you hope you don't have to use, right? So I think what's incredibly frustrating for me personally, and I've been in these environments where, there are our congressional reps from our Oklahoma delegation, and they continue to basically say that I'm lying or I'm being disingenuous because millions of people are not going to lose their health insurance. That's not what this is about. This is about da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I'm not going to follow your talking points. What I know is that if folks can't afford health insurance, they don't get health insurance. And you know how I know that? Because my husband and I both went without health insurance for multiple years of our lives because we couldn't afford it. It's a non-starter for folks. I mean, the way that our life has changed now is that we have a son who has insulin needs, right? We cannot go without health insurance. So then do we sell the house? You're asking folks to make impossible decisions just to be able to make ends meet. And so for me, I'm proud that the Democrats drew this line because it's millions of folks who might lose their health insurance. At the state level, what we're hearing from our colleagues, and I'm talking everyone. I'm not just talking about folks that we serve in the legislature. I'm talking about folks who work in state agencies who are obviously Republicans, are like, you need to call your Democrats in DC, and you need to tell them to vote, to get this shutdown opened up, and folks are going hungry and this and that. And I'm like, who do you think I know in DC? Like, let me get Nancy and Hakeem on the phone. Like, I don't know these folks, but the reality is, like, I wouldn't make the phone call even if I could, because this is the issue. For me personally, and for millions of Americans, this is the issue.
Yeah, and I just want to add that I've been trying to remind people who have good insurance and will continue to have good insurance that it's actually going to cost us all. And we anticipate the whole health system being stretched or broken from it. Because remember when the people of Oklahoma, hallelujah, passed Medicaid expansion, yay, thank goodness people did that, we would have been broken during COVID and our hospitals were closing. We needed more people to be insured. We're still one of the top uninsured states. We have about 11% uninsured. And this is expected to increase that. We can watch the private businesses who are running as insurance companies to know what they anticipate to happen, which is they anticipate a lot of healthy people getting off insurance. And so they're jacking their rates up, right? And we were in a meeting lately with a hospital briefing. They're expecting to lose billions over the course of 10 years from these changes. So we know what the private sector thinks is going to happen. And so we should just admit that it's true and that it's going to break our system as it is.
All right, we got one more question up here, Angela Stevens, and then we're going to take just a moment for hesitation, and then we'll go to our next speaker. We got one more question, Angela.
Yes, I was wondering, have any of the laws changed? I talked a little bit about my experience, like confidentiality of like with all the changes that around the act, all that, are they changing?
So just like about involuntary commitment of people?
Yeah,
What changed last year? What did
Yeah, we have a couple. Yeah, so the legislature passed a bill last year. Okay, 3 years ago, we passed a bill, Republicans passed a bill that allowed for kicking people off state property, which I had concerns because in my district, that means people are, instead of sleeping under the bridge, are going to be sleeping in our neighborhoods, right? It doesn't solve the problem at all. Last year, a bill passed, but the governor vetoed that would have removed homelessness as an exclusion for involuntary commitment. So when they're looking, I don't know if I can go, anyone who wants to get deep in it, call me, we'll talk about it. But, you know, we have very strict criteria for involuntarily committing people. And that's for a reason, because it's not okay to take someone's civil rights away unless you have really specific reasons for it. Oh, go ahead.
Is there a way you recommend to bring attention to like academia, with like maybe going in for medical condition, people like can't leave because I can walk.
I don't understand what you just said.
At my injury, I was able to walk, and I was with their criteria. They said
Was it at a rehabilitation center?
no, it's at CND site.
Okay.
I made a doctor mad. I wrote treat my husband, and she had 6 weeks.
Yeah, there haven't, as far as confidentiality changes, and I think that was the original specific, there haven't been any changes on confidentiality. I mean, your HIPAA rights still stand. And I mean, if there are ways that folks are abusing those, I mean, there are ways in which to file complaints through either the ADA or through civil rights.
If those offices still exist.
Well, sure. But locally, there are some, like the Disability Law Center.
Yeah, Disability Law Center's working their tail off trying to represent people who've been wronged in this regard. And I mean, it's upsetting you face that, because a lot of folks face the other, which is that when folks are in serious crisis, they need help, you know, trying to make sure they get that help. We've dealt with that around, like I passed a bill with Representative Nicole Miller around, and I think actually Rep. Walke might have given it to me, from a constituent who was trying to care for her homeless sister who was, you know, deep in delusions and could not understand that she needed help, and how to do that with, she didn't want her in a police car. Like, we want to keep people with mental illness out of police cars and in appropriate care. And anyway, that's a huge challenge, but.
All right, great questions, folks, great questions. Thanks very much. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you so much for your time. But before you go, I had a little gift for you. I appreciate you so much. That's Kevin.
We're just happy to be here. Plus, that stew is delicious.
She really likes the hobo stew.
There's Hicks, yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you so much.
You bet. You bet. So I was in Senator Hicks' Senate district, and then I changed to Julia Kirt when they changed the boundaries around. But the person I'd like to introduce next is my former House District representative, Collin Walke of House District 87. When we moved into our home, he had already run once before, and I thought, this is really a tenacious guy. I liked him a lot, and I've only grown to like him more all over time. Collin, thank you.
Thank you.
I
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I know we're running a little short on time. My name is Lori's husband. Okay, we are listening. Good. Yes. So my assignment today was to introduce the Reverend Dr. Lori Walke, and I will tell you that the primary reason why I was able to represent Ms. Cox was because of my wife. She's a fantastic public speaker and a public servant, and I'm glad to be here today to listen to her. So without further ado.
What a terrible thing to say to a preacher. You're not constrained on time. Well, thank you, friends. It is really good to be here. Usually, when I get up and speak and do the cursory thank yous, the next line is always, how are y'all doing? Okay. Meh. Yeah, I'm actually not going to ask you that because I know how you're doing. Everyone I know is concerned. Concerned as in troubled, bothered, upset, angry, anxious about our national political climate, about our local political climate, concerned about climate change, concerned about people being disappeared off the streets and deportations, concerned about the separation of church and state, about the federal workforce and tariffs and taxes and Teslas. We are concerned about our nation's health and vaccines and school lunches, concerned about the Federal Reserve and revised job numbers and the Epstein files. We are concerned that everyone was laid off at the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services. We are concerned about Ukraine and Russia and Gaza. We are concerned about the National Guard being deployed in cities across America. We are concerned about racial profiling and free speech. We are concerned about SNAP benefits, which will likely stop a week from today. We are concerned that there is no end in sight as we move closer to being an entire month into a government shutdown. We are concerned about our wildly dysfunctional Congress and our equally dysfunctional electorate. We are concerned that this is the worst that it's ever been. But I'm not sure it's the worst that it's ever been. For those of you who have read John Meacham's book, And There Was Light, Abraham Lincoln and the American Struggle, you will remember the story of anti-slavery Senator Charles Sumner, who on the floor of the Senate in 1856 gave a speech denouncing Senator Andrew Butler. Sumner accused Butler of having taken a mistress, one that he said was, quote, ugly to others, but lovely to him. And it turns out that Charles Sumner was not referencing a woman or that Butler was engaged in marital infidelity. Sumner was saying that Butler's devotion was to the enslavement of Black people. Butler's mistress was slavery, and he was attending to slavery as if he were in love. Butler's cousin, Preston Brooks, who was in the house, heard that speech and 3 days later ambushed Charles Sumner, who was preparing to mail copies of that speech out. And Preston Brooks struck Charles Sumner with a cane again and again and again, blows raining down in sickening thuds until Sumner was unconscious, bleeding profusely and severely injured. In fact, Charles Sumner was so gravely injured that he was not able to resume his seat in Congress for 3 years. It took him 3 years to recover. And meanwhile, Congress investigated Preston Brooks, the man who assaulted Sumner, but they failed to censure him, as in they couldn't even pass a resolution that said, oh, we can't beat people on the House floor. They couldn't even do that. And then to make matters worse, Preston Brooks resigned his seat in Congress, and he went back home and asked people to re-elect him, and they did. Talk about a dysfunctional Congress and a dysfunctional electorate. And this is just but one example of the things that America has been through and faced in its history. There has always been something, or rather there have always been some things. Violence and partisan jackwagonry has always been a constant. Slavery wasn't abolished until 1865 and was replaced almost immediately with Black codes and the proliferation of Jim Crow laws. High-profile assassinations were rampant between 1963 and 1968, and it included JFK, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., and Robert Kennedy. During the 1970s, protest bombings in America were commonplace. In a single 18-month period between 1971 and 1972, the FBI counted 2,500 bombings on American soil, which equals almost 5 a day. We have been lost in endless war. There are over 58,000 names of the dead listed on the Vietnam Memorial in DC. Of those, nearly 40,000 on that wall are the names of individuals who were 22 years or younger when they made the ultimate sacrifice. Despite the end to slavery, the legal end to segregation, and the civil rights movement, Black Americans have not had a moment's peace because of constant state and civil violence against them, not a moment's peace. Our country's immigration policies have always been racist. The 1790 Naturalization Act excluded non-white people from eligibility to naturalize. The 1917 Immigration Act banned immigration from most Asian countries. The Immigration Act of 1924 further laid out the following hierarchy. Northern Europeans are a superior subspecies of the white race. The Nordics were superior to the Alpines, who in turn were superior to the Mediterraneans, and all of them were superior to the Jews and the Asians. That's in an official government document. Over the course of our country's history, women have never, ever been considered full citizens, not trusted as capable moral agents with guaranteed rights over their own bodies and minds and property. And all of that whole page of circumstances, that was a cursory, non-exhaustive, incomplete list of what folks have had to endure and face down and overcome. So I suggest to you that no, this is not the worst that it's ever been. Which is not to say that it isn't a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad time. It is not to say that things aren't wildly alarming. It is not to say that things aren't keep us up at night bad. I am not saying that it is wrong to think that there is no light at the end of the tunnel at this point. But to say that this is the worst it's ever been says more about us than it does our reality. And at the risk of offending the audience, which is something my congregation will tell you does not bother me at all, to say it's the worst it's ever been is to sound a little bit like those people who wear red hats. It is to say that we have not been paying attention, that we have not been listening to those who have been struggling. We have been unthinking, unaware, and insensitive to the fact that violence, injustice, and flat out evil has been happening all around us before 2016. And yet some of us are acting like this is a fresh, new chaos to experience. And while this may be unfamiliar, it is not fresh or new. These are the leftovers of justice delayed and denied. It is our country's unfinished business. It is our work left to be done on America's original homework assignment. That original assignment dates back to the summer of 1787. And it was then that the American dream was put to paper, articulated in the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. Many of us were made to memorize it in elementary school, so please do join me if you can. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. It was our way of saying that we intend to establish justice this phrase that gives us a sense of moral rightness, of equality, and of fairness. We intend to ensure domestic tranquility and provide for the common defense. This demonstrates our government's duty to maintain a sense of peace within its own borders and establishes its commitment to protect its people from foreign threats. We intend to promote the general welfare. This means that we are going to work for the common good. And of course, over the centuries, what constitutes the common good has changed significantly, and it is still being refined. And we intend to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. That promise is now a hallmark of democracy, the protections of civil liberties under the law and limiting the power of the government so people are shielded from an overreaching and authoritarian regime. The text of the preamble imagined America at its finest: just, peaceful, good, and free. Sharon McMahon continues, with astonishing regularity, Americans have held fast to these ideals despite the clickbait stories that pretend calamity. And America has too often fallen short of these standards. Both of these things can be true at the same time. America has been just, and it has perpetrated injustice. We have been peaceful, and we have perpetrated acts of violence. We have been good, and we are good, and we have done terrible things to people. It has been the land of the free while simultaneously sanctioning oppression. Such is often the experience of any government run by fallible human beings. Sometimes we surprise ourselves in our capacity for greatness, and sometimes the weight of regret wraps around us like a chain. The ideals outlined in the Constitution represent our national purpose, the raft we must cling to in the storm, the breath in our lungs, the beat in our chest: just, peaceful, good, free. Just, peaceful, good, free. And ordinary people conjured that mission. It might feel like things are the worst they've ever been, but the truth is we are simply facing the challenges of our time. I do not find it necessary to give you all a list of things that we need to be doing, and that is because of a couple of things. The first thing is what I mentioned. I am confident that I don't need to give you a list of things because you are already concerned about what is concerning. You are already concerned. You are already upset, angry, troubled, and anxious. But I am also confident in us because you are concerned, but a different kind of concerned. You are concerned as in attentive to, thinking about, involved with. Concerned as in part of making progress on something. Concerned as engaged. Concerned is the most important thing we can be. For as Sharon and McMahon notes, the best Americans are not the critics. They are the doers. They are the people who went for broke when everyone else yelled to turn back. They are those who know that one becomes great because of who they lift up, not who they tear down. I have learned that no one reaches their final moments of mortal existence and whispers to their loved ones, "I wish I had gotten in more sick burns on Facebook." Friends, keep being concerned. Keep being bothered and troubled and upset and angry and anxious, but also continue to be concerned, attentive to, thinking about, and involved. I mean, this is what the purpose of the Democratic Disability Federation is about, isn't it? It's not just a get-together with a good soup selection. It is a network of neighbors and friends and leaders and problem solvers who are striving together for a more perfect union. The Democratic Disability Federation's to-do list includes, but is not limited to, fixing the fact that people with disabilities are 3 times less likely to have a job, and when they do, they are often paid less money for doing the same work. On our to-do list is expanding accessible public spaces so that it just becomes the way things are. On our to-do list is promoting equitable treatment of students with disabilities and their families. On our to-do list is supporting home and community-based care and ending sub-minimum wage. And let me be clear that this is not someone else's to-do list that they have created for us. It is our to-do list, a to-do list that comes out of the Democratic Party platform, a to-do list much like the preamble, one that was conjured by ordinary citizens. The work has never been linear. It has never been neat and tidy. Folks have sabotaged our efforts to make America just, peaceful, good, and free. But there have also always been people who have kept at it, kept trying, believing, and working, and it is simply our turn to get us through this terrible, horrible, no good, very bad time in which we are living. And as long as we breathe, we are able to contribute to making our country just, peaceful, good, and free. So friends, may you have the grace to never sell yourself short, the courage to risk something big for something good, and the wisdom to know that the world is too small for anything but love. We have homework to do, so I'll see you out there. Thank you.
Kirt and Carri Hicks. So please thank these young ladies for their effort to be here today to support us.
Thank you so much. I'm happy with the Q&A, but if there's not time, it's okay too. Well, we do have time. Okay. Great. Are there any questions for Reverend Walke?
I'm happy to take questions, and it doesn't have to be just what I lectured on. As many of you know, I have single-side deafness, which I experienced about 6 years ago. And so I am happy to talk a little bit about my experience, but also what I have learned as I have become part of the deaf and hard of hearing community.
I would like to. Oh, he's gonna, while he's going down there. Oh, I'm sorry. My question left me.
That's okay.
My name is Zach. I'm the CD4 corporate action officer and also CD4 chair for the Disability Federation.
You gotta hang on.
And I've worked with the community for around 15 years. Started about 15 years ago. I haven't signed in a while, but I wanted to ask, I know we've talked about running ASL, and so I wondered if you would share your experience with us in learning that, and anything that you learned from that experience and you think that we could take away and maybe encourage other people to learn about.
One of the things that I think is the most important thing we can do is to be open to learning and making mistakes in the name of widening the circle of inclusion. One of the things that I was shocked to learn is how differently we treat deafness than we do other disabilities. Instead of treating deafness like we do having trouble seeing, or even blindness, we often stop communicating completely with the deaf community. In fact, 90% of deaf children are born to hearing parents, and that child is the first deaf person that those hearing parents have ever met. And rather than learning a language, learning a communication style to connect with their child as they are, most parents simply try to get that kid to hear. When we know that all of us are born unable to communicate with oral language, all of us, most of us are born hearing, but that doesn't mean that you understand spoken word. I think that if we were to really emphasize learning ASL, implementing it as a required second language, that it would help from birth to death all Americans, right? It would empower our children who it takes years and years for them to be able to communicate with spoken word. They can communicate much easier with sign. And then of course, many of us associate deafness with the elderly. And it is true that many of us lose hearing as we age. And since we know that that's a reality, why aren't we doing something to ensure that as we age, as we lose our hearing, we can still communicate and fully participate in community and systems? And the easiest way for us to do that is for us to all be learning the second language of sign. The thing that the really easy thing that I encourage people to do that we can all do when we are in any situation is to think about what kind of hearing environment we're entering into. When we are entering a space that has high ceilings or that has a lot of people with a lot of different communications, that's a challenging hearing environment. Whether you are completely deaf or whether you are hard of hearing, or if you have fine hearing, it can get really difficult to hear what's going on. Earlier we had, I was so grateful that we are insisting on people using microphones. It's not simply that it's making it louder. That doesn't always necessarily make it easier for me to hear. It does improve the chances that I will be able to understand what is being communicated. But what would be even better is if we just regularly had interpreters at every public meeting that we had. What many people don't know is that it took 10 months until October of 2020 for the White House to start using an interpreter during White House briefings during COVID. Can you imagine not being able to get firsthand information about the most deadly pandemic our society has experienced until 10 months into the process? That is wild, and we cannot repeat that mistake.
I'd like to snitch on my mom just a little, maybe the feeling. Every time we drive past her house, my mom wants to home and say, "Boo, Lori."
No.
Oh,
there are Loris everywhere, Roger. It's okay. And it is a joke. Just to make you feel a little bit better, she's really, what I know your mom is doing is really a prayer drive. It's similar to a prayer walk, which I do in my neighborhood all the time because, you remember what people said to you when you knocked on their doors campaigning. Some of the things are very unpleasant. And as I continue to walk and run in my own neighborhood, I have had to really pray for the people behind the doors that were unpleasant to me and to my husband. I'm sure that's really what your mom is doing.
Are there any other questions? Raise your hand if you got any other questions. Let's give another round of
Thank you, friends. Thank you.
See you next year.
All right, that's going to conclude what we're doing today. And again, to just re-say what was said already, thank you for coming. Thank you for your participation. And thank you for spreading the word. Because like I said, this is not the last. This is the first. So thank you again.